Hey everybody, how's it going? Jenazad here. So Yinlin just came out, and let's be honest, a lot of people were wanting this character, so it's great that the banner moved up. But a lot of people have questions. Is this character actually worthwhile pulling? Are they a main DPS? Are they a really good sub DPS? What if I don't use Calcharo? People have a lot of questions of whether this character is actually worthwhile pulling, especially since we have Jinshi and Changli coming out on the 28th. Well, actually, only Jinshi on the 28th, but the 1.1 update on the way. So is this character actually that good, and should you actually pull them? If you enjoy this video, please subscribe to the channel, but let me answer all this right now. So first of all, this is the build that I have. I have 65 crit rate, 230 crit damage, 120 energy regen, not crazy attack overall. I am using her weapon, String Master, and it is an insanely good weapon, giving you a huge damage boost overall, also having crit chance, so pretty much the best thing she can use. For echoes, I'm actually using the Electro set. Now I will say, I think this is maybe a bit of a mistake and she should be using the Moonlit set. So this is a set that you would use if using her as the main DPS. However, I think most people should go Moonlit set and use her as a sub DPS. The reason why, I don't think she's really that good as a main DPS. I tried using her a lot, and overall she just does not get anywhere near most other characters in terms of overall damage. So the Moonlit set, not only does it increase energy regen, which is a little bit nice, but not that big of a deal, but the main thing is giving the damage boost to the next character as a sub DPS, right? So you swap to her, you use her whole combo, then you swap to your main DPS, they get that extra attack boost. And if you're doing that, you probably want to use the Heron as the main one, right? But ideally, I think she should be using crit damage as the main cost, 4 cost for this, 3 cost, double Electro, and then double attack, but probably on the Moonlit set instead of Electro overall. But I think if you use the Electro set, it's not that bad of an idea overall, and it still does kind of work. As for skills, obviously you want to max everything, but the most important stuff is probably Forte Circuit, the Resonance Liberation, and the Resonance Skill. Obviously you want to get these 2 middle ones, and here's something really big about Yinlin that no other character really has, is her crit chance is crazy. This gives her 15% crit rate, then she gets 8% crit rate from these. So she's looking at 23 free crit rate right off the bat, right? And you start with 15, so you're at 38% crit rate before you even have a weapon or any substats. That's why you should probably always use the crit damage 4 cost on her, because it's so easy to get crit rate, right? It's just simpler than other characters. I have no resonances as well. If you do get some of them, then she actually becomes a pretty good damage dealer overall, but you kind of have to go pretty hard, because like increases some of her skill damage, makes it so she can get her ult and stuff back faster, increases more damage. The Judgment Strike is the one, I believe, when she's off the field, increasing attack of the whole team, doing way more damage with her ult, and then obviously this is an insane nuke if you're going main DPS Yinlin, but even then I think someone like Jiyan probably gets a lot more out of all of his resonances. So how is this character as a whole? Well, first, let me talk about some of the more specific things. She does use a ranged weapon, which a lot of people say can't parry. However, this attack can parry, the first one. Also, the second attack can parry. The third one is unable to parry. That spin does not parry. And when she dodge attacks, it also does that spin attack, which cannot parry, which is a little bit awkward. I think the fourth one can, but it's so awkward to use I wouldn't recommend it. Also, she can parry with this, and this is actually really long range and huge hitbox parry. So she is actually good at parrying overall. Also, her intro skill can parry. So that's pretty nice to have a character that has range, but is also able to actually parry some of the really difficult enemies. Now, here's another thing we have to talk about. Her Forte gauge, because a big part of her playstyle is essentially she marks enemies with this ability, and then she also has this to gain more Forte gauge and do a bunch of damage, right? And when she uses this, any enemies that were marked now get a different mark called Judgment Mark. So when you swap to another character, that mark will remain on them. But if you don't hit them with the heavy attack that I just did there, where the whole AoE comes out, then they don't get marked at that one, and if you swap to another character, they lose the mark. A lot of people are confused about that and say, did they just hard nerf this character? They don't work anymore. So you need to make sure that you actually understand that's how she works, right? But one of the important things is her rotation, right? A character like Verena is such a good support. She builds her outro skill so quickly, and she's also able to quickly buff. She puts the turtle buff on, she does a heal for the damage boost, swap to another character, right? Yinlin is a little bit different. She usually needs to go skill into some basic attacks, into like a heavy attack, into skill again, and then into potentially ult if she has it up, or outro skill after the heavy attack, right? She has to be on the field for a little bit. So I actually found when I was using her with some characters such as Chisha, I was actually losing damage. And here's a big reason why. Because why is she such a good character overall? It's because of this, Strategist. So if you use her with a character like Calcharo, it's an insane boost because she's getting 20% damage amplification to the next character and 25% resonance liberation, right? So if you use a character like Calcharo, he scales hard off of resonance liberation damage and he's Electro. So you're getting a huge damage boost for him on top of the mark that's on enemies doing a lot of damage. So that's an insanely good support. But then you look at some of these other characters. What is Jiyan getting? Basically nothing, because his ult is counted mostly as a heavy attack, so you're not really getting anything for Jiyan, right? Mortefi is giving him way more. What about Chisha? Well, you're not really getting a whole lot for her either, because she's kind of just a constant DPS, so it's not that amazing. However, a character like Havoc Rover is actually okay, because Havoc Rover has decently long cooldowns, and once they've used everything on the field, they kind of have a downtime. So that's when you could perfectly swap to Yinlin, buff, do all that crazy stuff, and also the Resonance Liberation buff is really good for Rover because she is one of the highest damage multipliers in the entire game for ults. So I think it's pretty decent to combo with someone like that. However, the only characters that really hugely benefit off Yinlin and it becomes like insane combo is Calcharo and is Yuanwu. Those are really the only characters, and people keep trying to convince me to build this guy, but I refuse until I see some evidence that it actually seems viable. So if you are a Calcharo main, I think Yinlin is a god tier pick, like insane combo. If you're not though, I don't really think she is all that much of a must pull. Is she a solid character? Yes. But she's not like the craziest game changer I've seen because there's so many good supports and characters in the game overall. This game is weirdly well balanced where so many characters are viable and strong. Like the 4-star Mortefi and like Sanhua for some reason are god supports. So Yinlin isn't as much of a crazy boost over some of these other characters. Also, how does she compare to Jiyan? Because both of the banners are running right now as we speak. So she is a sub DPS, he is a main DPS. I would say in a vacuum, just 1v1, Jiyan's better. He's a really good DPS, he has great AoE, he's just really solid, and he's easy to play, great at parrying, right? However, DPS are usually the characters that get invalidated the quickest, right? Usually they make a new character, like the next time an Arrow DPS comes out, what if it's just better than Jiyan, right? As for supports though, they usually last pretty long because every time an Electro character comes out, it's like, oh, we can pair these characters together and she can support their damage, you know, that type of thing, right? So Yinlin probably will have more longevity overall in this game as a whole than someone like Jiyan. However, right now this second, she might not have as much power unless you're actually utilizing her strengths with someone like Calcharo. So really be aware of something like that. And overall, she's like a relatively easy to gear and free to play character because you don't really need her weapon. She gets a lot of crit chance for free, right? You don't really need all of her skill stuff completely maxed to use her all the time. Jiyan needs a lot more investment, and ideally he kind of wants his weapon. He's a little bit more reliant on it than I would say Yinlin is, because, you know, she's more of a support. She requires less time on the field as a whole. So don't make the mistake of pulling this character just because you buy into the hype, because a lot of hype is around this character because she just looks amazing. I mean, look at her, right? And lots of advertisement for her and everything, right? Don't pull the character just because a lot of people are hyped to pull her. Do keep in mind what kind of team and what kind of characters you're actually utilizing to see if it's actually all that worthwhile for you. Because her AoE damage is great. I took her into the tower and she was doing a great job helping with some of those mobs, doing a good amount of AoE damage and just supporting me well, even though I'm not using Calcharo. But whenever I would fight something like a boss, for instance, she felt like she was really falling flat and wasn't really contributing all that much damage. However, if you're using her with Calcharo, you're going to feel like he's all juiced up and absolutely insane, and you're going to feel like you have a god team. So overall, she's really more for specific types of teams. So that's kind of the gist of it. I hope this video helped you because I tried to kind of go over all of my thoughts of this character because she has a lot of good things about her and she's a really solid character. But normally when limited characters come out in gacha games, especially when a gacha's new, they're like absolutely insane. But she's not like completely broken. Neither is Jiyan. Weirdly enough, both of the beginning characters for Wuthering Waves are strangely balanced with the rest of the cast, and every character plays so differently, so it normally matters more what kind of playstyle you enjoy more than the specific character. So I think a lot of people shouldn't pay too much attention to where all these characters are in the tier list, because for instance, I use Chisha to beat every single piece of content in the game, all of the hardest things, and some people are struggling when they're using like the best character, Jiyan or something like that, or using Yinlin, Calcharo, maybe they're having trouble. So really keep in mind that you actually want to use this character, try them out in the trial, see if you like their playstyle, think about if you're actually going to utilize characters like Calcharo or if you're planning for the future, and consider and weigh your options with Jiyan as well. Some people are also re-rolling accounts trying to get one or both of the characters. If you want to go real wild, you could do that as well. But that's basically all of my thoughts on Yinlin at the moment, day one, what I think about this character. Thanks a bunch for watching. If you enjoy this, please subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to make a lot of Wuthering Waves content. I really appreciate it. Also, I hope to see you next time. And also, I stream at twitch.tv/Jenazad. I'm there every single day. Hope to see you there.